Alright, and welcome back to another video. And by the way, before we continue with the remaining loops, I just want to let you know in regards to if else. So as for the if block, we can add multiple conditions. So I guess it's better to explain it here before we are going further with our remaining topics with the Java programs syntax. So before I forget, then let's just include it in this video. So let's erase our code here. And here's my point, by the way. So for the if, we can have multiple conditions actually. Right, so let's say for example, let's have a variable. If it happens that int my number, right, so let's initialize the value to 0. Alright, so if it happens that my number is less than 10, for example, alright, and if it happens the my number is also 0, so if it is less than 10 and 0, like that, we can do it like less than or equal to 10. But my point is that if it happens, meaning two conditions, so if it happens that the number is 0 and it is less than 10, then we are to execute the block statement belonging to if. Alright, so how to do it? So we can have another equals to 0, right? And we can use this AND operator. But to have a very concise code, we need to isolate this first condition here with a close parenthesis and another open and close parenthesis here for our condition. So that means if by number is equal to 0 and that number is less than 10, and that means we are to execute here something, right? So for example, we are to display an output here. The my number is less than 0 is equal to 0 and less than 10. Alright, so let's click build and run. So my point in telling you this in this video is that I just want to let you know that conditions for if is you can have multiple conditions inside your if statements. Alright, so my number is equal to 0 and less than 10. Alright, so if it happens that the condition is not true, then it will jump out or it will ignore what is written or what are the statements inside the if block. Alright, so the program has ended. Right? Let's click build and run. There you have it. So the my number is equal to 0 and less than 10, and the program has ended because there you go. The statement, the condition still remain true, right? Because the value being held by number variable is still 0, and that makes both conditions true. Therefore, it executes or executed the statement belonging to the if block. So if we are to change the value here, right, to 1, right, so that means one of the condition becomes false. Alright, so although yes, my number equals to 0, that will result to false, right? Because my number is not anymore 0. And although the my number is less than 10, as what this condition suggests, then this block will not be executed because of this operator. This double ampersand here indicates and that means the if block will only be executed if both conditions are true. Alright, and since with our given example, this condition here, number is equal to 0, is false because the number is already 1, therefore this statement here will not be executed. Alright, so to show it, let's click build and run. So there you have it. So if you notice, I just got the output coming from line number 24 and it ignored the statement written inside the if block in line number 18. That is because, as what I have said, it has to be both conditions to be true. It has to be both conditions are true in order for this if block to execute whatever inside. Alright, so if in any case you just want at least one of the conditions is true, alright, so regardless both are true, and you want the if statement to execute the statements inside, regardless any of the conditions are true, then we are to change the operator from ampersand to double pipeline. That means OR symbol. So that means if it happens that this statement is true or this statement is true, that means it's going to execute what is inside here. Alright, so to have a grammatically correct output display, let's just modify our print line here. So the number is equal to 0 or, let's change from AND to OR, less than 10. Right, so regardless this is true or not, or this is true or not, so my point is at least one of these conditions is true, then that means the if block will be executed. That's my point, and then it will jump out right to the statements outside. So let's click build and run. So what do you think will be the output? So obviously it's going to produce the output in, alright, so in line number 18. So I haven't clicked here play yet because I want you to predict the output. Alright, so since 1 is not equal to 0, then that makes this condition false, right? But we are using OR, so we still have to check another condition. If it is true, then at least one true, it will be executed, the if block. So since 1 is less than 10, then that makes the statement true. Then that means obviously we are going to get the statement coming from 18 to be presented as output. So let's click play. Alright, just for you to check. Alright, so the my number is equal to 0 or less than 10. And that output is executed. That is because one of the condition becomes true. At least one. Alright, so what if none of the condition is true? It is not 0 and it's not less than 10. So let's say for example 100. So 100 is not equal to 0 and it's not less than 0. Therefore, it invalidates the statements or the conditions, and the statement belonging to if block will not be executed. And obviously it will jump outright, and then we can have the, there you have it, the last statement, which is program has ended, obviously. Alright, and lastly, before we end this video, I just want to let you know as well that inside our if else we can also add loopings here, right? We can also add loops inside our if block or even inside our else block. If there is a need for you to add else, then you can add, we can also add loops. Alright, so as for loops, we can also add ifs. We can also add another if. Right, so let's say for example we will add another if here. So if it happens that number, right, so if it happens that the number is equal, so my number is equal to let's say for example equals to number 5, so we will perform a loop, right? So let's perform a loop while, right, so while the number is less than 10, so it will perform a loop, right? So since 5 is still less than 10, so that means our program will still loop for 5 times, right? So we can still perform here. Let's print a number of hello worlds. Maybe let's just print the number of loops. So we can do it by typing here my number, and let's print the number of loops. So we are to increment my number, by the way, right after printing the output. So my number, increment it like that. So that means after reading the value here of this variable, if it becomes at least one of the condition is true, then it's going to execute this statement here. And then after executing the statement, it will going to measure once again the value being held with the variable. If this statement here, I mean this condition here is true, then that means it will perform the loop, right? And it will check once again the condition for the loop. If it happens that it is true, then it will keep on executing whatever inside until it remains false. So as for this one, if you can see it, we will not get any output because the data being held by our variable is 100, alright? And 100 is not equal to 0 and it's not less than 10, then obviously all what we wrote inside this if statement will not be executed. Therefore, it will jump right away to the else statement. Right? So the else statement has been executed. Right? And then let's add here outside the if block just for us to have a proper tracking of our outputs. So the if block has been executed. Alright, there you have it. So to check our code, let's click build and then run. Alright, so as what we expect, the else statement has been executed because the number is not true. So let's change the value here with something that will makes our statement, if statement, execute whatever code is inside. So let's make at least one of the conditions here true. So we can put 0 here or any number that is less than 10, right? So just 0 for the sake of this example. So after checking, since the value is already 0, then this will make this statement true, correct? And then it will get this output and then it's going to measure this condition here, right? And then since this condition 0 is not equal to 5, then that means we will not be getting the execution of this block here. It will jump right away to line number 33. Alright, to check it, so let's click build and then run. So if you notice here, we got our output here. So the my number is equal to 0 or less than, right? For a while, or less than 10, which is the output coming from line number 18, right? The my number is equal to 0 or less than 10, and then the other output is that the if block has been executed. So the if block has been executed is coming from line number 33. As what I have said, it ignored this if block here because the condition is false, right? So unless we change it to 5, right, then that means this condition is false, but this condition is true because 5 is less than 10, right? Therefore, it will execute still this statement here, and then it will measure once again the condition. And since 5 is true, because the numerical value 5 held by my number is equal to 5, which is the condition, then that means it's going to check this loop here, right? So let's add another statement here. Statement outside the loop. Alright, so I added a prompt here that indicates it's going to execute once the reading of the compiler is already outside the loop, right? Just for us to indicate. So since 5 is equal to 5, then it's going to read it here, right? And here, since 5 is less than 10, then that means it's going to produce an output loops, right? It's going to read or print the number, which is 5, multiple times up until the condition becomes false. Or else, if we are not to add this one, it will produce an infinite loop. Right, so let's click build and run. And there you have it. The my number is equal to 0 or less than 10, and the given number was 5, right? And then it printed, it started to loop, it printed the number 5, and then the second one, it printed, it incremented with one value the second time, and then the third time, the fourth time, and then the fifth time, it printed the number 9, and then the last one it runs to invalidates the statement because after this, after the 9, it becomes 10, and then it makes the statement false here, then it exited the statement or the loop. That's why we got statement outside the loop has been executed, and then the if block has been executed coming from the outside of the if block here, written in the line 34. Here's the body of the if block, by the way, right? Line 34 here. And then obviously the else statement is not to be executed because the condition is true. At least one of the conditions is true, and else has been ignored, and it jumped right away straight to the program has ended. Alright, so I just hope you learned something, and if you find this lesson so confusing, just take it slow, just play it multiple times, because I do believe programming indeed involves logic, and sometimes it's so confusing. So we just need to be logical type of person and need to slowly understand things bit by bit. Alright, so once again, if there is a question and there's something you want me to clarify, just feel free to comment in the comment section, and don't forget to click subscribe, like the like button and the notification bell in order for you to be notified for our new uploads. Have a great day and see you in the next lesson. See you. I'm going to explain the do while loop, the for loop, and also the enhanced loop in the succeeding videos. Have a great day. Goodbye for now. Bye.